Deep in the misty highlands of ancient Britain, something terrible happened. 5,000 Roman soldiers marched north into the unknown. They carried their eagle standard high, their armor gleaming in the pale northern sun. They were the 9th Legion, one of Rome's most feared fighting forces. They never came back. What happened to these warriors remains one of history's greatest puzzles. Did they die in battle? Were they wiped out by wild tribes? Or did something even stranger occur? Before we dive into this mystery, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more incredible war histories and mysteries. The story begins long before Britain, in the dusty hills of Spain. Around 65 BC, Roman generals were busy building new legions to feed Rome's hungry war machine. The 9th Legion, or Legio IX Hispana, as the Romans called it, took its first breath in the Spanish provinces. Spain was perfect training ground for new soldiers. The land was rough and wild. Local tribes fought hard against Roman rule. Young men who survived the Spanish campaigns became tough, battle-tested warriors. The 9th Legion cut its teeth on these early fights, learning the brutal lessons that would serve them well in years to come. The legion's name, Hispana, meant Spanish. But this wasn't because the soldiers were Spanish. Most were Roman citizens or allies from across the empire. The name came from where they first served and proved themselves worthy of the eagle. Every Roman legion carried an eagle standard, a golden bird perched on a wooden pole. This eagle was sacred. It represented the power of Rome and the honor of the legion. Losing your eagle was the worst shame imaginable. Better to die than let barbarians capture your eagle. The 9th Legion's eagle would become famous across the empire. But it would also become the center of the greatest mystery in Roman military history. When Julius Caesar decided to conquer Gaul, he needed experienced legions. The 9th was among the units he chose for this massive campaign. From 58 to 50 BC, they marched through what is now France, Belgium, and parts of Germany. Caesar's wars in Gaul were brutal. The Celtic tribes were fierce fighters who knew their land well. They used hit-and-run tactics, attacking Roman columns in forests and vanishing like ghosts. But the 9th Legion adapted quickly. At the Battle of Gergovia in 52 BC, things went badly wrong for Caesar. The Gallic leader Vercingetorix had chosen his ground well, a hilltop town that seemed impossible to take. Caesar ordered an attack anyway. The assault failed, and Roman forces retreated in chaos. The 9th Legion was part of this disaster. They lost men and equipment. Some soldiers broke and ran. It was one of Caesar's worst defeats, and the 9th shared in the shame. But they learned from it. Later that same year, at the siege of Alesia, the 9th got their revenge. Vercingetorix made his last stand in this fortress town. Caesar surrounded it with walls and trenches. When a massive Gallic relief army arrived, the Romans found themselves trapped between two enemy forces. The battle that followed was desperate. Gauls attacked from inside the fortress while their allies charged the Roman walls from outside. For hours, the outcome hung in doubt. Then Caesar himself led a cavalry charge that broke the Gallic army. The 9th Legion fought with wild courage in this battle. They held their section of wall against wave after wave of screaming warriors. When victory came, they had earned their place among Caesar's elite units. Caesar's conquest of Gaul made him rich and powerful. Too powerful for Rome's politicians. In 49 BC, civil war erupted. Caesar crossed the Rubicon River with his armies, including the faithful 9th Legion. The civil wars that followed tore the Roman world apart. The 9th Legion fought in battles across the Mediterranean. They marched through Italy, sailed to Greece, and campaigned in North Africa. Everywhere they went, they left their mark. At the Battle of Dyrrhachium in 48 BC, they faced Pompey's forces in a confused night battle. Roman fought Roman in the darkness. The 9th took heavy losses but held their ground. When dawn came, the field was littered with bodies wearing the same armor. But the real test came at Pharsalus later that year. This was the battle that would decide Caesar's fate. Pompey had more men, but Caesar had better soldiers. The 9th Legion was placed on Caesar's right wing, facing some of Pompey's best troops. The battle was fierce but brief. Caesar's veterans, hardened by years of Gallic warfare, proved superior to Pompey's larger but less experienced army. The 9th Legion smashed through their opponents and helped secure Caesar's victory. With Pompey defeated, Caesar became master of Rome. The Ninth Legion had backed the winning side. Their loyalty was rewarded with land grants and bonuses. Many soldiers retired to farms in Italy, their service complete. But the legion itself continued. New recruits filled the ranks. The eagle remained, and with it, the tradition of the Ninth. Caesar's assassination in 44 BC brought fresh chaos. More civil wars erupted as various leaders battled for control. The Ninth Legion found itself serving different masters as the Republic died and the Empire was born. When Augustus finally brought peace to the Roman world in 31 BC, the Ninth Legion was ready for new challenges. The emperor had grand plans for expanding Roman power. Germania looked tempting, a land of forests and rivers beyond the Rhine. The German campaigns of the early 1st century AD were some of Rome's bloodiest. Germanic tribes were different from the Gauls. They were more mobile, more savage, and they knew how to use their harsh environment against invaders. The Ninth Legion crossed the Rhine multiple times during these campaigns. They built forts in the German wilderness and patrolled rivers that seemed to stretch forever. The fighting was constant: ambushes in dark forests, raids on supply convoys, sieges of wooden hill forts. In 9 AD, disaster struck Roman forces in Germania. 3 entire legions were wiped out in the Teutoburg forest by an alliance of German tribes. The news shocked Rome. Augustus reportedly wandered his palace crying, "Varus, give me back my legions." The Ninth Legion wasn't part of this catastrophe. They were stationed elsewhere when Varus and his men marched to their doom. But the disaster changed everything. Rome pulled back from Germania, abandoning dreams of conquest beyond the Rhine. In 43 AD, a new emperor came to power. Claudius needed military glory to secure his position. Britain looked like the perfect target: wealthy, divided, and close enough to supply from Gaul. The Ninth Legion was chosen for this great adventure. After years of garrison duty in Germania, they were eager for real action. The British tribes were said to be rich in gold and slaves. Victory would bring glory and profit. The invasion fleet crossed the English Channel in the spring of 43 AD. Roman ships filled the narrow waters between Gaul and Britain. The Ninth Legion landed on British beaches alongside 3 other legions and thousands of auxiliary troops. The early campaigns went well. British tribes were brave but disorganized. Roman discipline and superior equipment told. Town after town fell to the legions. Tribal leaders either surrendered or fled north into the wild highlands of Scotland. The Ninth Legion pushed into the heart of Britain. They built roads and forts as they advanced. Local tribes either submitted or were crushed. It seemed like another easy conquest for Rome's war machine. But Britain would prove different from other Roman conquests. The island was full of surprises, and the worst was yet to come. In 60 AD, the Ninth Legion faced its greatest test. A British queen named Boudica had raised the banner of revolt. Her husband had been a Roman ally, but Roman officials had insulted her family after his death. They seized her lands, flogged her, and assaulted her daughters. Boudica's rage burned like wildfire. She gathered warriors from multiple tribes and marched on Roman settlements. The rebels struck without warning, overwhelming Roman garrisons and slaughtering civilians. Camulodunum, the Roman capital of Britain, fell first. The rebels destroyed the Roman temple and massacred everyone inside. Then they turned toward Londinium, the growing trade center that would one day become London. The Ninth Legion, commanded by Quintus Petilius Cerialis, marched south to face the rebellion. Cerialis was confident his professional soldiers could scatter any number of British rebels. He had fought in Germania and Gaul. These painted warriors didn't scare him. He was wrong. The British attack came at dawn. Thousands of screaming warriors charged the Roman battle line. But these weren't the disorganized tribal raids the Romans expected. Boudica had learned from earlier defeats. Her forces used Roman tactics against Roman soldiers. The battle was savage. British chariots smashed into Roman ranks while archers poured arrows into the packed legionaries. The Ninth Legion fought desperately, but they were outnumbered 10 to 1. Their neat formations crumbled under the weight of numbers. By noon, the legion was broken. Hundreds of soldiers lay dead on the muddy field. Others fled into the forests, throwing away their weapons and armor. Only the cavalry escaped intact, carrying news of the disaster back to Roman commanders. Cerealis survived, but barely. His proud legion was shattered. The eagle standard was saved, but little else. It was the worst defeat a Roman legion had suffered in Britain. Boudica's rebellion continued to rage. Londinium burned. Verulamium was destroyed. Thousands of Romans and their British allies died. For a moment, it seemed Roman rule in Britain might collapse entirely. But Rome didn't give up easily. The governor, Suetonius Paulinus, gathered his remaining forces and met Boudica in a final battle. This time, Roman discipline prevailed. The rebellion was crushed, and Boudica took poison rather than face capture. The destruction of the 9th Legion at Boudica's hands was a massive blow to Roman prestige. But Rome had resources that British tribes couldn't match. New recruits were shipped from Gaul and Germania. Veteran officers were transferred from other legions. Slowly, painfully, the 9th Legion was rebuilt. The process took years. New soldiers had to learn their trade, while veterans nursed wounds both physical and mental. The shame of defeat hung over the legion like a dark cloud. Quintus Petilius Cerealis remained in command despite the disaster. Rome believed in giving commanders second chances, especially those who had shown courage in defeat. Cerealis had stayed with his men during the retreat and saved what he could. That counted for something. The rebuilt 9th Legion was eager to restore its reputation. They trained harder than other units. They volunteered for dangerous missions. They wanted to prove they were still worthy of the eagle. Their chance came during the campaigns in northern Britain. The wild tribes of Scotland had never fully submitted to Rome. They raided Roman settlements and vanished into their mountain strongholds. Someone had to bring them to heel. The 9th Legion pushed north into Caledonia, as the Romans called Scotland. This was harsh country, mountains, forests and moors that seemed to stretch forever. The weather was terrible, the natives hostile, and supply lines stretched thin. But the Legion adapted. They learned to fight in forests and mountains. They built hill forts and signal towers. They turned local tribes against each other, using Roman gold and promises of protection. Gradually, the frontier moved north. Roman roads cut through the Scottish Highlands. Roman law replaced tribal customs. The 9th Legion was at the heart of this expansion, proving they could still fight and win. By the early 2nd century AD, the 9th Legion was stationed at Iberacum, modern York. This was their permanent base, a stone fortress that controlled northern Britain. From here, they could strike at any Scottish tribe that dared challenge Rome. The Legion had recovered its reputation. Veterans spoke of victories in the Scottish Highlands. New recruits were proud to serve under the famous eagle. The shame of Boudica's rebellion was finally fading. Around 108 AD, the Emperor Trajan was fighting wars in Dacia, modern Romania. He needed experienced legions for these campaigns. Some historians believe the 9th Legion was transferred east to join these battles. But other evidence suggests they remained in Britain. Inscriptions and military records hint that the Legion was still at York in the 110s AD. If so, they would have been part of the Emperor Hadrian's great project, the wall that still bears his name. Hadrian's wall was built starting in 122 AD. It stretched across northern England from sea to sea. This wasn't just a border marker, it was a statement. Rome was done trying to conquer Scotland. From now on, they would simply keep the barbarians out. The 9th Legion would have helped build this wall. Their engineers knew how to cut stones and lay foundations. Their soldiers provided security for the work gangs. It was the kind of massive project that Roman legions excelled at. But somewhere around this time, something went wrong. The exact fate of the 9th Legion remains unclear, but the evidence suggests their end came sometime between 120 and 130 AD. What we know for certain is chilling. They simply vanished from the historical record. Roman record-keeping was usually excellent. Legions were transferred, disbanded, or destroyed, but always with proper documentation. The bureaucrats in Rome tracked every soldier, every piece of equipment, every denarius spent. But not the 9th Legion. They disappeared as if they had never existed. The last definite record of the Legion dates to around 108 AD. After that, silence. No more inscriptions from soldiers, no more mentions in military dispatches, no references in historical chronicles. This wasn't normal. When Roman legions were transferred, they left traces. Records of their departure, mentions of their new posting, inscriptions at their destination. When they were disbanded, there were lists of discharged veterans and distribution of their equipment. When they were destroyed in battle, Roman historians usually recorded the disaster in great detail. The loss of 3 legions at Teutoburg Forest was documented extensively. Every major military defeat found its way into the history books. But the 9th Legion simply vanished without explanation. Over the centuries, historians have proposed many theories about what happened to the 9th Legion. Each has some evidence to support it, but none can be proven beyond doubt. The most popular theory is that they were wiped out in a Scottish uprising. According to this idea, the Legion marched north of Hadrian's Wall to suppress a rebellion. They were ambushed in the Highlands and completely destroyed. The survivors were either killed or enslaved. The eagle was lost forever. This theory explains why there are no records of their fate. Rome might have suppressed news of such a catastrophic defeat to prevent panic in Britain. The loss of an entire legion would have been a massive blow to imperial prestige. Archaeological evidence might support this theory. Some Roman military equipment has been found in southern Scotland, including items that could have belonged to the 9th Legion. But nothing conclusive has been discovered. Another theory suggests the legion was transferred to the eastern frontier. During the 110s and 120s AD, Rome faced serious threats from Parthian and Armenian forces. Experienced legions were needed to defend the eastern provinces. Some historians point to inscriptions from the Rhine frontier that might reference the 9th Legion. If they were transferred there first, then sent east, it would explain their disappearance from British records. But this theory has problems too. Roman legions transferred to new provinces usually left clear records of their movement. The bureaucratic machinery of the empire was too efficient for such a major transfer to go unrecorded. A third possibility is plague or disease. Roman armies were vulnerable to epidemic diseases, especially when campaigning in unfamiliar territory. If the 9th Legion was struck by a severe outbreak while stationed in northern Britain, it might have been so weakened that it was effectively disbanded. The survivors could have been distributed among other legions, while the unit itself was quietly removed from the army rolls. This would explain the lack of dramatic records. There was no great battle to commemorate, just a slow dissolution. Modern archaeologists have searched extensively for traces of the 9th Legion's fate. They've excavated Roman sites across Britain, looking for clues about what happened to these vanished warriors. At York, archaeologists have found evidence of the legion's presence throughout the early 2nd century. Inscriptions mention individual soldiers. Military equipment bears the legion's markings. Building stones show their construction work. But then the trail goes cold. After about 120 AD, references to the 9th Legion at York become scarce. This suggests they either left the fortress or were so reduced in numbers that they barely functioned as a unit. In southern Scotland, metal detector enthusiasts and archaeologists have found Roman military equipment that might belong to the lost legion. Pieces of armor, weapons, and personal items have turned up in areas where no permanent Roman settlements existed. Some of these finds show signs of battle damage. Helmets have dents from weapons, shields have been hacked apart, personal items seem to have been dropped in haste, as if their owners were fleeing from some threat. But none of these discoveries can be definitively linked to the 9th Legion. Roman soldiers looked much the same regardless of which unit they served in. Equipment was standardized across the army. Without clear markings or inscriptions, it's impossible to know which legion lost these items. The most tantalizing discovery came from a field near Stirling in central Scotland. In 2019, a metal detector enthusiast found a bronze fitting that might have come from a Roman eagle standard. The piece was decorated with Jupiter's thunderbolt, a common symbol on legion eagles. Could this be a fragment of the 9th Legion's lost eagle? The dating seems right, and the location fits with theories about their final campaign. But the piece is too small and damaged to provide definitive proof. Despite their mysterious fate, the 9th Legion left a lasting mark on history and popular culture. Their story has inspired countless books, movies, and television shows. The idea of a lost Roman legion captures the imagination like few other historical mysteries. The most famous fictional treatment is probably Rosemary Sutcliffe's novel The Eagle of the Ninth, published in 1954. This book tells the story of a young Roman officer who searches for his father's lost legion in the Scottish Highlands. It's been filmed multiple times and remains popular with readers today. Hollywood has also embraced the mystery. Movies like The Eagle and Centurion offer dramatic interpretations of the legion's fate. These films usually show the Ninth being ambushed and destroyed by painted Scottish warriors in misty mountain passes. But the real story is probably less dramatic than fiction suggests. The most likely explanation is that the legion was gradually weakened by disease, casualties, and transfers until it ceased to exist as an effective fighting unit. The survivors were probably absorbed into other legions or discharged from service. Rome rarely advertised military failures. If the Ninth Legion suffered a slow decline rather than a glorious defeat, there would be little reason to record it in detail. The bureaucrats would simply stop mentioning a unit that no longer existed. The mystery of the Ninth Legion teaches us important lessons about ancient history and the limits of our knowledge. Despite Rome's excellent record-keeping, we still don't know what happened to 5,000 professional soldiers. This reminds us that much of ancient history remains mysterious. We have fragments, inscriptions, archaeological finds, scattered references in texts, but the complete picture often eludes us. The past keeps its secrets well. The story also shows us the human cost of empire. Whether the Ninth Legion died in battle, succumbed to disease, or simply faded away, their fate represents thousands of individual tragedies. Each soldier had a name, a family, hopes and fears. These men signed up to serve Rome for 25 years. They expected to retire with land grants and pensions. Instead, they vanished into the mists of history. Their families probably never learned what happened to them. Modern technology offers new ways to solve ancient mysteries. Ground-penetrating radar can reveal buried structures without excavation. Chemical analysis can trace the origins of metal artifacts. DNA studies might eventually identify human remains. Perhaps somewhere in the Scottish Highlands, archaeologists will find the remains of a Roman fort or battlefield that can be definitively linked to the Ninth Legion. Maybe metal detector enthusiasts will uncover a cache of military equipment with clear unit markings. Or perhaps the mystery will never be solved. Some secrets of the past are lost forever, buried too deep in time and earth to ever be recovered. The Ninth Legion might join those countless other vanished peoples whose stories we can only guess at. But the search itself has value. Every archaeological dig, every historical study, every new theory adds to our understanding of the Roman world. Even if we never learn the fate of the Ninth Legion, we learn more about how Roman Britain worked, how the empire functioned, and what life was like for ordinary soldiers. The men of the Ninth Legion marched into history and legend. Their eagle standard, whether lost in a Scottish bog or melted down in some Roman foundry, represented courage, loyalty, and the price of empire. They deserve to be remembered, even if we can never know exactly how their story ended. The mystery of the Ninth Legion continues to fascinate historians and history lovers around the world. Their story represents one of the great unsolved puzzles of the ancient world, a reminder that even the mighty Roman Empire had its limits and failures. If you enjoyed diving into this ancient mystery, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. We bring you the most fascinating stories from history, from lost civilizations to forgotten warriors. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our latest discoveries from the past. What other historical mysteries would you like us to explore? Let us know in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next adventure through time.